Hey guys, welcome to Garden Radio. Tonight we have David Rountree in. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing? I'm sitting here staring straight ahead. Oh god. I'm ready.
Alright.
How are you doing tonight, Danielle?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a very interesting night. How was yours?
Well, I didn't injure myself like you did, but I've had a very interesting evening helping my son with his homework, so uh, I'm ready to talk about adult things. So.
Alright. Well, I guess the guests that were supposed to be here for Tom, the time sequence got a little messed up tonight. I was used to starting at the normal time, which would be now, but I guess it was set for an hour earlier, and I had totally spaced on that. So the show is starting now, and then Tom will be on after David. David, can you tell me more about yourself? Like, how did you get into the paranormal necessarily, or when did you start?
I started when I was roughly 8 years old when my family moved from Virginia to Florida. My next door neighbor was a retired professor. He was also a pattern maker. He taught me woodworking, trigonometry, a lot of kid stuff. And he had a very extensive library that contained all these first edition works about the paranormal. And I read every book he had. There was over 200 books. He had books by Charles Fort. He had books by uh, every major author in the paranormal field up to roughly the early 1960s. And I read everything from frogs raining from the heavens to the Loch Ness monster, to UFOs, to ghosts, to you name it. I read about it, and I was just totally fascinated with it. I had also had experiences with visits from family members that had passed on when I was younger and didn't quite understand what was going on. So I had a tremendous curiosity to try to understand all this weirdness. And it pretty much culminated the night I graduated from high school when I went to a haunted house with some friends of mine after we were out celebrating our graduation. I went immediately into the U.S. Air Force, got my college education there, and when I got out in 1976, I began to seriously study it from a scientific aspect. And the instrumentation that was available for me to use back then was pretty crude. We were using pretty gargantuan reel-to-reel tape recorders that were, roughly about 60 pounds in weight. We had old Shure microphones, tube mixers. I was using a converted mine detector as an EMF sensing device. We had rewired it to be a passive receiver. It was just very crude, but even with the crude things that we had to work with, we were catching some fascinating data. We did a lot of experiments studying EVP. Back then it wasn't called EVP, of course. It was called the Rod-Odd voice. And we eventually were able, I came up with a theory of what it was back in 1978, but I wasn't able to get any definitive proof until around 2002. And in 2002, the technology had got to the point where I could afford to put together an apparatus that would allow me to prove what EVP really was, which it turns out that it's an electromagnetic field that's propagating in the audio spectrum. The interesting thing about it is we've recently discovered that this field is emerging into the environment, meaning it's popping into existence from points unknown. Of course, we have a lot of work that we're doing on that as well, based on the 12 or so points of data that we're collecting. And we have definitely mapped out what we call a paranormal event horizon. And this has led me to develop a theory that I'm calling the wormhole theory right now, for lack of a better term. But more about that, we'll go more into that when we have our interview. Like I say, I have a pretty solid scientific background. I'm a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. I'm a member of the Audio Engineering Society. I'm actually an audio and acoustic engineer by trade. That's how I make my primary living and fund my research. But I really, truly have a really small team of individuals who are very dedicated, and we approach everything from a very methodic, scientific aspect. We document everything we do, we collect our data, and we analyze it, and we talk with physicists and other scientists in an effort to try to analyze that data and to get an explanation for it. And we've gotten a lot of interest from some people who are in the field of quantum mechanics. And I'm currently working on a doctorate in physics myself, so it is my hope that within the next year to 2 years, I will be able to offer significant proof of certain aspects of the theory that we're working on right now. I mean, we've got enough evidence to get other groups to start replicating the work so that we can get some additional data from other people to make sure we're not dealing with artifactual evidence. But that's where we're at. And having said all that, I'm ready to move on.
Well, a few more questions just before I end. I was going to ask, when exactly did you start up the Scientific Paranormal Investigation Research Information Technology? I know it's a long name, but Spirit. When did you start up Spirit? I don't think I caught that.
Yeah, Spirit actually was a morph. It started in Florida when I was at the University of Florida, and it came from when I was initially studying everything. I mean, literally everything that I could get my hands on. So it comes a point when you realize there's just not enough time in the day, and there's not enough resources, and there's just not enough, things that you can do, and you end up halfway doing everything else and not doing anything full-fledged. So roughly it was basically in the early 90s, 1992, is when the Spirit Lab actually came into being in the incarnation that it's in today. And in 2001, it moved to New Jersey. I still do have people and associates working in Florida, working independently, but we share our data. They're doing the same methodology that I'm doing. But it's been around since like I say, 1992 in its current incarnation.
Okay, and then the New Jersey Paranormal Research Group, you're a co-director?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The New Jersey Paranormal Research Group, you're the co-director. When was that founded?
It's actually Resource Group, but yeah, that actually sprung out of an investigative group that I had here that was called Skyland's Paranormal Investigations, which this was the original website that I'm using now for it. We ended up merging both organizations into a single investigative group, and that freed me up to concentrate solely on directing the research and being an assistant and putting the field research teams together. You can't really devote yourself to both aspects of it. You either have to follow the theoretical aspects of it and the research aspects of it, or the field work in it. Now, I can do some field work, and I do some field work, but I concentrate on the lab work, which makes the field work possible. I have a good group of individuals who are out there doing the field work, and when I can, I assist them, particularly if I'm rolling out some new piece of technology we've created, or we're doing a different series of experiments. So it freed me up to concentrate more on the areas of study that I felt was pertinent and interesting to me. And the folks that were interested in doing the actual investigating, you got me out of their hair pretty much. So everyone won in that situation.
Okay. Well, I can't wait for our official one-on-one interview. We'll definitely have a lot more to talk about. And I really do thank you and appreciate tonight. David's going to be the co-host, taking on Tom's theories and work and his book. So I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. Alright, I'm going to get everything set up, and I just wanted to say thank you. If you want to check out David, he has his site. It's spinvestigations.org, and then /blog would be his blog part. Is there anything else you'd want to say to the audience before I make it a co-host show?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, is there anything else you want to mention to the audience before I cut down for the first half?
No. Let's move right on to the meat of the matter here.
Alrighty, I will call you back in a minute. Everybody will be back in around, let's say 5 minutes. Alright? Sounds good.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, see y'all soon.